Hey everyone, so today I am starting my series of cage tours since updating all of the cages. If you guys watched Vlogmas at all, you will know that I actually upgraded everyone's cages. You've seen everyone's cages in Vlogmas, but for those of you who did not watch Vlogmas, here are 4 of the cages. Today we are focusing on the guinea pig cage, and I will start you off by letting you know what it is. This is a triple wide Critter Nation. Here is the dimensions of, here we go, of a single here. Ignore the height. That's the dimensions of a single. And they have 3 of those. It ends up being about 9 feet by 2.5 feet, I believe. I will put an annotation below if it is slightly off from that. So, here's Pippin. Hello, love. So, on our 3rd Critter Nation, at the very end, we've got their hay rack, I guess you can call it, and we have had this pretty much since we got them, actually, and it has been my favorite hay rack for them. I've tried bags, I've tried like metal wire ones, I've tried DIY ones. This is definitely my favorite rack for them. So I will leave a link down to this below. It used to be hearts here, but now they're more like triangles. And it holds a ton of hay. And then underneath I just have a cat litter tray, and it has some wood stove pellets in it, which I just changed out. And they've already pooped in it. And it is on this end because I keep the hay box down there full of hay. They also have 2 water bottles down here, and these are the KT glass water bottles. They're my favorite kind of water bottles. Everyone that has water bottles has those. And they also do all of their eating down here. So here's their pellet dish, and they also do all of their eating down here. This part of the cage gets changed out the most frequently. If you, again, tuned in for Vlogmas, you know that it gets changed out about every 2 to 3 days, depending on if I put a pad in that back corner there, and depending on how much they use their litter box. This here is the Oxbow Cavi Cuisine, I believe. It's the Oxbow Adult Guinea Pig formula. And then when I first got this cage, I thought that I'd want one big coroplast base, but any of you that have Critter Nations know that it's really easy to wrap fleece around these pans. So I decided to keep the pans that came with it. Excuse me, Mary. That's Mary, for those of you who don't know. Excuse me, beep beep. So instead, they are multiple pans, and I have these pads here that just block them from getting through or putting their little legs in these gaps here or anything like that. Each Critter Nation has its own set of double doors which latch. Once it's latched, it makes it a fully enclosed cage, which is great because I have a cat. So we'll open the middle section here, and this section tends to be where they sleep, I'd say probably about 50% of the time. And this section is pretty bare because they do a lot of their running through here. Of course, there are a ton of poops and a pad under this tunnel because they do actually lounge here as well. But this is where they tend to do the most running. They just have a TP tube toy thing. And again, this is fleece. Under my fleece, I use bed pads. I'll show you what kind I use. But I use the kind for humans, the adult kind. They're just incontinent bed pads, and then I've got another pad here that blocks these 2. So this section is really simple. There's not even a water bottle in this section because they typically spend most of their time running through it. And again, 2 latching doors on each section. And then this section I call the lounging section, I guess. So this is where their toys are. and their toys are pretty much DIY because they don't really play with toys except for Willow and cardboard. So they've got like a cardboard garland type thing. A treat ball. This used to be a treat ball. And then they've got a Muffins cozy hut here, which I did a review on and featured on my channel. I will link that down below and put it up in the cards for you guys. They love this thing. One of them is sleeping in it at all times. I still need to buy a second one. And then they have a cuddle cup, which they use less often. This section is the least cleaned out section. It tends to make it an entire week without being cleaned out because they very rarely pee back here. They'll poop back here occasionally, but they surprisingly don't pee back here. In fact, I've cleaned it a couple times to see that the bed pad was completely clean underneath. And they have one more water bottle down here, which needs cleaned out. As you guys can see, I didn't really spot clean the whole cage. I just spot cleaned that section down there. So, they do have one more water bottle down here. They really only need two because there's two of them, but I have one more down here because this cage is 9 feet long and it felt like having only two down there wasn't enough, and having only one down there and then one down here wasn't enough either because they do the most drinking down there. So that's it for the guinea pig cage. I will show you the bed pads we use in case you guys are curious. They do actually, I have a video cleaning this cage that was part of Vlogmas, so you can pull that up on my channel. It's fairly recent. But these fit the cage pretty much perfectly. The cage is 36 by 30 or 36 by 24, so they're about an inch off. But I haven't had any issues with that because it's only about half an inch off on each side. So it hasn't made much difference for me. But these are the Target brand ones, and these are the protective underpads. These are designed for humans, but they are basically just puppy pads at a much cheaper price. And you don't have to get these specific ones, but I do recommend checking out the adult incontinence section where like the adult diapers are and things like that, because these tend to be in that section for much cheaper. This 18 count pack was about $5, and I could get the same thing at PetSmart for probably about $15. So I tend to stock up on these. They're great, and I use these instead of washable bed pads, which you can also use. I own those. You can buy basically washable, reusable versions of these. I use these instead because I have to change so many cages out. And I have to pay for my laundry right now. I might not always use these. I might switch back to washable pads at some point if I get my own washer and dryer, but using these cuts back on laundry for me. So that's great. And then because I just got finished changing out that section of the cage over there, this isn't on top of the cage where it's supposed to be, but the top of the guinea pig cage is most of the guinea pig storage, as well as the other pets, but the guinea pigs tend to have the most stuff, really. So we've got one of their little cozy hides, and then we've got, these are like spare scraps of fleece and stuff like that. We've got some cat stuff here because Knox likes to chill on top. The pellets and their scoop, they get 1/4 a day for the two of them. They've got their little dustpan, which I don't use very often because most of you guys know I happen to use, I use a vacuum most of the time. And then we've got their fleece storage down there. And this actually goes where that cozy hide is, and that cozy hide goes on top of it. And then over here I've got just some more random storage, some more fleece stuff. Not too much stuff is here for them specifically. But that's about it for the guinea pig cage. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and leave them down below. As I mentioned before, I will leave the total dimensions of the cage somewhere on the screen for you guys to see it that way. Because I know it's 9 by, I think, what is it? Oh, okay, no, it's 9 feet by 2 feet, exactly. So, yeah, it's narrower than a typical CNC cage, because typical CNC cages are 28 inches wide, so you're missing about 4 inches, but it's very long at 9 feet, so, yeah, I will do a conversion for you guys of what this would be in CNC grids if you're curious. Now, the way that I have made this a triple wide is by putting together the cages without the center panels. I didn't have to do any random modifications. I literally just left the panels out. Here they are right next to the cages. So you just build it without the center panels, or the side panels, sorry. And I zip tied them together on the sides and on the top. If my camera will focus on that, probably not, but you get the gist. So on this very last Critter Nation, I just left off the left panel. In the center Critter Nation, I left off both the left and the right panel. And then on the very first Critter Nation, all the way down there, I left off the right panel. And then I zip tied them all together, and there you go, you have a triple wide cage. Now, you can, instead of using the Critter Nation pans, you can, of course, make your own base. And if you were to do that, you'd have one long cage, so you wouldn't need pads on the section here. But because I use a layering system and not liners, I actually really like having separate pans, so it's easy for me to go ahead and use these pads. Alright, so I think that's all the information. As I mentioned before, this is a 9 foot by 2 foot cage, so it is perfectly adequate for my 2 boars. It would actually be adequate for at least one other pig, but I like having my boars in one big cage because they don't bicker as much. So, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and leave them down below, and I will leave links down to the cages, exactly the ones we have, and where we bought them from down below. Of course, this is the Midwest Critter Nation, so you can actually purchase this on other sites besides Amazon, but that's where we bought ours, so that's what I'll be linking. I have a video all about all of the cages in general and how we put them together and all of the information about this room in both a pet room tour and a all about our cages video, which I will link down below and in the cards if you guys are interested. Alright, now that I'm out of breath from talking so much, I will see you guys in our next video. This is going to be a bit of a series because I'd like to get cage tours that are in depth, not so much about the cozies, but about the cages themselves, up for you guys so you have some reference points about what I keep my pets in and how I keep them. So, that being said, I will let you guys go. It's been a lot of rambling from me today. I will see you all next week or later this week, depending on how the week goes. So, see you in the next one. Bye, guys.